looked like tiny explosions in my glass, fitting, considering what was about to detonate in my life. Elena's promotion party was in full swing, our living room packed with her marketing firm colleagues, all designer suits and practiced smiles. I stood in the corner, nursing my drink and watching my wife work the room like the predator she'd become. "Lucas!" Elena's voice cut through the chatter, that fake brightness she'd perfected over the years. "Come meet the new VP of Strategic Development." I walked over, already knowing this wouldn't end well. Elena had that look, the one she got when she was about to remind everyone exactly where I ranked in her world. "This is my husband," she announced to the circle of suits. Then came the knife. "Lucas doesn't have a degree or any real career prospects. He just fixes things around the house. Lives off my income, really." The laughter that followed wasn't cruel. That would have been honest. It was worse. It was polite, dismissive, the kind reserved for harmless pets who'd wandered into adult conversation. I raised my glass, letting the silence stretch just long enough to make everyone uncomfortable. "Well then, cheers to all of you. This is the last time any of you will see me." I walked out, but not before catching Monica's whisper to Elena. "He'll be out of your hair soon. Miles is ready to make his move." Funny, I thought. I thought I was the one about to disappear. Turns out I'm just getting started. Back in my workshop, the basement Elena never bothered to visit, I sat among my tools and really looked at my life for the first time in years. 17 years of marriage, and she'd just announced to a room full of strangers that I was worthless. The woman who used to trace my scars from construction work and call them beautiful now treated me like an embarrassing relative she couldn't quite disown. But Monica's comment bothered me more than Elena's public humiliation. Miles is ready. Ready for what? I'd always been good at reading between the lines. Comes from years of dealing with contractors who say one thing and mean another. Elena had been working late more often, taking calls in the other room, buying new lingerie she never wore around me. Classic signs, but I'd chosen to ignore them. Time to stop ignoring things. It took me 3 days to find Elena's burner phone. Not through some miraculous accident. I'm not that lucky. I followed patterns, watched her habits, noticed she always checked something in her car before coming inside. The phone was taped under the driver's seat, amateur hour stuff. The messages made my stomach turn, but not for the reasons you'd expect. I'd prepared myself for an affair. What I hadn't prepared for was the cold calculation behind it. Miles. "The pregnancy will seal it. He'll have to give you everything in the divorce." Elena. "What if he fights for custody?" Miles. "He won't. I'll make sure of that. Jordan knows how to handle problems." Elena. "I can't wait to be done with this charade. Playing loving wife is exhausting." There were dozens more, dating back 8 months. Plans to get pregnant, kick me out, take the house, destroy my reputation. They'd even discussed framing me for domestic misuse to ensure Elena got everything. But here's the thing that really got to me. There was a message from 2 weeks ago. Elena. "Lost it, miscarriage." Miles. "Unfortunate. We'll try again after the divorce. Get over it and stick to the plan." 2 weeks ago, Elena had been crying in the bathroom. When I'd asked what was wrong, she'd snapped at me to leave her alone. I'd assumed it was work stress. She'd been mourning a pregnancy I didn't even know existed, and her lover's response was to tell her to get over it. That's when I knew Elena wasn't just cheating on me. She'd become someone I didn't recognize at all. The next morning, Elena tried to apologize for the party. "I was drunk, Lucas. You know I didn't mean it." I was making coffee, going through the motions of normal life while my world reorganized itself around this new information. "Which part didn't you mean? That I'm worthless or that everyone should know it?" "Don't be dramatic." She was using her boardroom voice, the one that made underlings scramble. "I'm trying to apologize. For humiliating me or for getting caught enjoying it?" She studied my face, looking for cracks in my composure. Elena had always been good at reading people. It's what made her successful in marketing. But I'd had 3 days to prepare for this conversation. "I think we should take a break," she said finally. "Some time apart might be good for us." There it was. The opening move, exactly like the messages predicted. "You're probably right," I said, pouring my coffee with steady hands. "I'll pack some things." The surprise on her face was worth everything. She'd expected me to fight, to beg, to make it messy. Instead, I was making it easy. "Oh, well, good. I think that's mature of you." "I've always been mature, Elena. You just stopped noticing." That afternoon, I packed a single bag and moved into the Rusty Buckle Motel. Not because I was giving up the house. I'd built half the custom features with my own hands, but because I needed space to plan. Elena thought she was getting rid of me. What she was actually doing was giving me the freedom to work. The Rusty Buckle wasn't much to look at, but it had two things going for it: cheap rates and Grace behind the bar. Grace was 60-something, sharp as a blade, and had been serving drinks to Ashwood's residents for 30 years. If you wanted to know who was sleeping with whom, who was stealing from whom, or who was about to lose everything, Grace was your woman. "Heard Elena kicked you out," she said, sliding a beer across the bar without being asked. "Mutual decision," I replied. Grace snorted. "Nothing's mutual with that one. She's been in here twice this month with that slick suit from her company. Hands all over each other like teenagers." "Miles Remington?" "That's the one. Big spender, lousy tipper, always checking his phone like he's running the world." She leaned closer. "Word is he's got some interesting financial arrangements, the kind that don't look good in board meetings." This was why I liked Grace. She understood the value of information. Interesting how? Let's just say his expense accounts are creative. My ex-husband worked for the same firm before they fired him for asking questions. She refilled my beer. Questions about missing client funds. I filed that away for later. Elena seems happy. Elena seems desperate. There's a difference. Grace's eyes narrowed. She's been asking around about you, too, wanting to know if you've been in here, who you've been talking to. Girl's paranoid. That night, I called Owen. We'd been friends since high school, back when he was planning to be a cop, and I was going to be an architect. Life had other plans. He made it through the police academy, but quit after 5 years, citing philosophical differences with the system. Now he ran a private investigation business that operated in the gray areas of the law. "Lucas, Christ, haven't heard from you in months. How's married life?" "Complicated. I need a favor." "This about Elena?" Owen had never liked my wife. He'd been polite at the wedding, supportive when I'd talked about her career success, but I'd always sensed his disapproval. Now I wondered what he'd seen that I'd missed. "She's having an affair with her boss. They're planning to destroy me in the divorce." Silence on the other end. Then, "What do you need?" "Everything you can find on Miles Remington. Financial records, personal history, anything that might be useful." "That's not exactly legal, Lucas. I'm not asking you to break the law. I'm asking you to be creative." Another pause. "I'll see what I can do." "But Lucas, be careful. People like that don't play fair." "Neither do I. Not anymore." After I hung up, I sat in my motel room and planned. Elena thought she was dealing with the same passive husband who let her walk all over him for years. She was about to learn that still waters run deep, and I'd been still for a very long time. The first move came to me while I was lying in bed, listening to the highway traffic. Elena's home office was her sanctuary, filled with awards, client photos, and the diplomas she'd earned while I'd worked 2 jobs to pay her tuition. She'd always been proud of that room, showed it off to visitors like a trophy case. It would be such a shame if something happened to it. I knew the house's electrical system better than anyone. I'd rewired half of it myself. A small surge in the right place at the right time could cause all sorts of problems, especially if someone had left papers too close to a space heater, or if the smoke detector's battery happened to be dead. The beauty of being underestimated is that no one expects you to be smart enough for real revenge. They expect shouting, drinking, maybe some pathetic attempts to win them back. They don't expect patience, planning, or the kind of methodical destruction that looks like a series of unfortunate accidents. I smiled in the dark. Elena wanted me out of her life? Fine. But she was going to learn that some things, once broken, can't be fixed. And some people, once pushed too far, push back harder than you ever imagined. Time to show my wife exactly what she'd thrown away. The next morning, I drove past the house, our house, and saw Elena's car in the driveway. She'd be getting ready for work, probably feeling triumphant about how easily she'd gotten rid of me. I parked at the end of the block and waited. At 8:47 a.m., like clockwork, Elena backed out and headed toward downtown. I gave her 10 minutes, then used my key for what I planned to be the last time. The house felt different now that I knew the truth. Every family photo on the walls looked like a lie. Every piece of furniture we'd picked out together felt like evidence of my own stupidity. But I wasn't here for sentiment. Elena's office was exactly as she'd left it. Meticulously organized, every award perfectly positioned, her MBA diploma centered on the wall like a shrine. She'd always been proud of this room, called it her success space when she brought clients over for dinner. I'd installed the electrical system in this room myself, back when Elena had called me brilliant and handy instead of worthless. Funny how things change, but systems don't lie, and they remember who built them. The space heater in the corner was one of those expensive, supposedly safe models. But even safe appliances can malfunction if their wiring gets creative. A small adjustment to the outlet, a tiny modification to the internal wiring, and you've got a device that might overheat under the right conditions. I spent 20 minutes making delicate adjustments, then positioned some of Elena's older files, the ones she never looked at but kept for sentimental value, just a little too close to the heater. Not obviously so, just carelessly. The way someone might leave them if they were distracted, maybe by planning their husband's destruction. The smoke detector was next. Amazing how those 9-volt batteries die at the most inconvenient times. I didn't remove it, that would be obvious. I just loosened the connection slightly. Enough to cause intermittent failures, the kind that might not trigger during a small, localized fire. Before I left, I took one more look around the office. Elena's Employee of the Year plaque caught the morning light. Her client testimonials were framed like art. This room represented everything she'd built, everything she was proud of. She screamed at the ashes. I just handed her a broom. The call came at 2:30 p.m. I was at a job site installing custom cabinets for a client when my phone rang. Elena's name on the screen. Lucas! Oh God, Lucas, there was a fire! I could hear sirens in the background, voices shouting instructions. What? Where? The house. My office it's destroyed. Everything's gone. I made appropriate shocked noises while mentally checking off my list. Are you okay? Was anyone hurt? No, no one was hurt. I was at work, but Lucas, all my files, my awards, everything. She was crying now. Real tears for once. The fire department says it was electrical, something with the space heater. How is that possible? You installed that outlet? I don't know, Elena. Sometimes these things just happen. Old wiring, power surges. I let my voice trail off, the concerned husband trying to make sense of a tragedy. The insurance adjuster is coming tomorrow. Can you come home? I need you here. Interesting. 12 hours ago, she'd wanted me gone forever. Now she needed me. Funny how crisis changes perspective. I'll be right there. The scene at the house was perfect. Fire trucks were pulling away, neighbors clustered in small groups on the sidewalk, and Elena stood in the driveway looking lost. The damage was contained to her office, just as I'd planned. But it was thorough. Smoke damage had ruined most of her precious awards, water damage had destroyed her files, and the smell of burned dreams hung in the air. I don't understand how this happened, she kept saying as we surveyed the wreckage. That heater was supposed to be safe. These things happen, I said, putting my arm around her shoulders. She leaned into me, seeking comfort from the man she'd been planning to destroy. At least, no one was hurt. Everything else can be replaced. She pulled back to look at me. Not everything. Some of those awards, the client photos, they're irreplaceable. I know, I'm sorry. And I was sorry. Sorry it had taken me so long to realize who she really was. Sorry I'd wasted 17 years on someone who saw me as disposable. Sorry she'd forced me to become someone who could burn down her dreams without losing sleep. That evening, Elena asked me to stay the night. I don't want to be alone in the house, she said. Not after today. I agreed, but I didn't sleep much. Instead, I lay next to my wife and listened to her breathe, thinking about how easy it had been. One small fire, and Elena was already cracking. She'd built her entire identity around professional success, and I'd just shown her how fragile that foundation really was. But this was just the beginning. The next morning, I met Owen at a diner across town. He slid a manila folder across the table with the casual air of someone ordering coffee. Miles Remington, he said. Interesting guy. I opened the folder and found a gold mine. Bank statements, credit reports, employment history, and something even better. A series of photographs taken outside a downtown hotel. He's got expensive tastes, Owen continued. 3 mortgages, 2 car payments, and a gambling problem he thinks no one knows about. Those photos are from last Tuesday. Recognize the woman? I did. Monica from HR, Elena's best friend and co-conspirator. In the photos, she was handing Miles an envelope outside the Grandview Hotel. What's in the envelope? Cash, most likely. Monica's been skimming from the company's training budget for months. Small amounts, Nothing that would trigger an audit, but it adds up. My guess is Miles is taking a cut in exchange for looking the other way. This was better than I'd hoped. Can you prove it? Not in court, but I don't think that's what you're after, is it? He was right. I wasn't planning to send anyone to prison. I was planning something much more personal. There's more, Owen said. Miles has been telling people at the country club that he's about to make a big acquisition. Specifically, he's been bragging about upgrading his living situation and finally getting rid of dead weight. Ring any bells? It did. Miles was so confident in his plan that he was already celebrating. He thought he'd won, thought he was going to get Elena, the house, and whatever else he wanted. Time to show him how wrong he was. That afternoon, I made copies of Owen's files and drove to the country club. I'd been there exactly twice, once for Elena's company Christmas party, and once for a client meeting with a wealthy homeowner who wanted custom built-ins. Both times, I'd felt like an outsider, the working-class husband who didn't belong in their world of golf and gossip. Today, I felt like a predator who'd finally found his hunting ground. The club's bar was half empty, just a few retirees nursing afternoon drinks and discussing their portfolios. I ordered a beer and waited. Miles was a creature of habit. Owen's surveillance had shown he stopped by for drinks every day at 4 p.m., usually with one or two colleagues. At 4:15, he walked in with Jordan, his supposed fixer. Jordan looked like exactly what he was, corporate muscle trying to pass for a businessman. Expensive suit, cheap attitude, and the kind of confidence that comes from never having been truly challenged. I waited until they'd ordered their drinks, then walked over. Miles Remington, Lucas Moreau, Elena's husband. Miles turned, and I saw the moment recognition hit. His face went through several expressions: surprise, guilt, calculation, before settling on fake friendliness. Lucas, good to see you. How are things? Complicated. Mind if I sit? He gestured to an empty chair, probably figuring it was better to keep me close than have me making scenes across the bar. Jordan shifted in his seat, hand moving slightly toward his jacket. Interesting. I wanted to thank you, I said, settling into my chair. Thank me? For taking such good care of Elena. She's been working so hard lately, staying so late at the office. It's nice to know she has a boss who's so personally invested in her success. The silence stretched just long enough to be uncomfortable. Miles was trying to read me, figure out how much I knew. Jordan was trying to decide if I was a threat worth worrying about. Elena's a valuable employee, Miles said finally. Oh, I know, very valuable. In fact, I'd say she's worth everything to you, wouldn't you? Another pause. Then Miles smiled, the kind of smile predators give prey before they strike. Elena's told me about your situation. I understand you're going through a difficult time. Divorce is never easy, I agreed, especially when there are so many secrets involved, so many things that might come out during the proceedings. I pulled out my phone and showed him one of Owen's photos, Miles and Monica outside the hotel, money changing hands. Nice picture, don't you think? Very artistic, the lighting, the composition. You can see everything clearly. Miles's face went pale. Jordan leaned forward, but I held up a hand. Relax, Jordan. I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here to make a deal. What kind of deal? Miles asked, his voice carefully controlled. The kind where everyone gets what they deserve. I finished my beer and stood up. Elena will be in touch soon. She's got some big decisions to make about her future. I'd hate for those decisions to be influenced by unfortunate publicity. I walked away before they could respond, leaving them to wonder exactly how much I knew and what I planned to do with it. The beauty of psychological warfare is that people's imaginations are often worse than anything you could actually do to them. That night, Elena was waiting for me when I got home. She'd been crying again, but these weren't the grief tears from the fire. These were fear tears. Miles called me, she said. He said you came to see him. I did. Nice guy. Very informative conversation. She studied my face, looking for clues. What did you talk about? Business, relationships, the importance of honesty in both. I sat down across from her the same way I'd sat across from Miles. Elena, we need to talk. About what? I pulled out the burner phone, her burner phone, and placed it on the coffee table between us. About this. About Miles. About the pregnancy you lost 2 weeks ago, and the plan to destroy me in the divorce. Elena went completely still, like a deer sensing a predator. I don't know what you're talking about. Lost it, miscarriage. That was your message to Miles. His response was, get over it and stick to the plan. Very romantic, don't you think? She reached for the phone, but I was faster. Lucas, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You've been planning this for months. The affair, the pregnancy, the frame job. You wanted me gone, Elena. Congratulations. You got your wish. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. The question is, what happens now? Elena's mask finally slipped completely. The tears stopped, the pleading expression disappeared, and I saw the cold, calculating woman she'd become. What do you want? She asked. I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember that you had a choice, and you chose to destroy someone who loved you, because what happens next isn't my fault, Elena. It's yours. I stood up and headed for the door. Where are you going? Back to my motel. You wanted me out of your life, remember? But Elena, I turned back to look at her one last time. You might want to check with Miles about those photos. I think you'll find your future isn't as secure as you thought. As I drove away, I could see her in the rearview mirror, standing in our doorway with the burner phone in her hand, probably calling Miles in a panic. Let them panic. Let them wonder what I knew, what I planned, how much damage I could do. They were about to find out that the man they'd dismissed as harmless was anything but. And the best part? This was just the warm-up act. You can't outrun karma, but you can try on foot. Miles's Porsche was a thing of beauty, midnight blue, perfectly detailed, parked in its reserved spot like a monument to success. He'd bought it 6 months ago, according to Owen's research, right around the time he'd started planning to steal my wife and destroy my life. It was 3 a.m. when I made my move. The country club's parking lot was empty, except for security cameras that I'd already disabled with a small electromagnetic pulse device Owen had borrowed from his police days. Nothing fancy, nothing traceable, just a temporary blind spot in their surveillance. I didn't key the car, that would have been petty. Instead, I went to work with the precision of a craftsman. The paint job that read Home Wrecker in bright red letters across both sides wasn't spray paint. It was automotive paint, the kind that bonds permanently to the surface. Removing it would require a complete repaint job. The tires were next, not slashed. That was vandalism. Instead, I removed the valve stems entirely, a technique that looks like equipment failure rather than sabotage. The windshield got filled with sawdust from my workshop, packed tight enough that it would take hours to clean out. But the real masterpiece was the note I left tucked under the windshield wiper. Looks like your ride's as reliable as your morals. Enjoy the walk. A concerned citizen. I was back at the Rusty Buckle by 4 a.m., establishing an alibi by having a drink with Grace, who was pulling an all-night shift. You're up late, she observed, pouring me a whiskey. Couldn't sleep, too much on my mind. Heard about the fire at your place, shame about Elena's office. Yeah, she's pretty broken up about it. Grace studied my face with the sharp eyes of someone who'd seen every kind of human drama. Funny thing about fires, sometimes they clear the air, help people see things more clearly. Sometimes they do. My phone rang at 7:30 a.m. Miles, and he was furious. You son of a witch! You destroyed my car! Good morning to you too, Miles. What's this about your car? Don't play stupid with me. I know it was you. That's a serious accusation. I hope you have proof. Silence on the other end. We both knew he had no proof. Couldn't have proof. I'd been too careful for that. This isn't over, he said finally. You're right about that. It's just getting started. I hung up and smiled. Miles was used to being the predator, the one who made threats and watched people scramble to appease him. He wasn't prepared to be prey. The next move came from Elena. She showed up at my motel room that evening, looking desperate and dangerous. We need to talk, she said, pushing past me into the room. About what? Your boyfriend's car troubles? She spun around to face me. This has to stop, Lucas. Whatever game you're playing, it ends now. Game? Elena, I'm not playing anything. I'm just a worthless husband with no future, remember? What could I possibly do to someone as successful as Miles? Don't. Her voice was sharp, the tone she used in boardroom confrontations. I know you're behind the fire, the car, all of it. Prove it. She couldn't, and we both knew it. But Elena was smart enough to realize that proof didn't matter if the damage was already done. What do you want? She asked, the same question she'd asked before. I want you to understand something. For 17 years, I let you treat me like I was nothing. I convinced myself it was because you were stressed, because your career was demanding, because deep down you still loved me. But you don't, do you, Elena? You haven't for years. She didn't answer, which was answer enough. So now we're going to play by new rules. You wanted a war? You've got one. But don't expect me to fight fair, and don't expect me to lose gracefully. Elena tried a different approach. She moved closer, let her voice soften, touched my arm the way she used to when she wanted something. Lucas, we can fix this. The affair with Miles, it was a mistake. I was confused, scared about our future. But we can work through this. Can we? What about the pregnancy? She flinched. That was complicated. What about the plan to frame me for misuse? Another flinch. Miles' idea, I never would have gone through with it. But you didn't stop it either. She was close enough now that I could smell her perfume, see the desperation in her eyes. This was Elena's last card, seduction, the promise of going back to the way things were. I love you, she whispered. No, you don't. You love what I represented. Stability. Someone to pay the bills while you built your career. Someone who wouldn't challenge you or demand too much. But you never loved me, Elena, and I'm done pretending that's enough. I stepped back, breaking the spell she was trying to weave. Besides, I wouldn't touch you now if you were the last woman in Ashwood. The mask dropped again, faster this time. You're going to regret this. I already regret it. I regret wasting 17 years on someone who was never worth it. She left without another word, but I knew this wasn't over. Elena didn't accept defeat gracefully, and neither did Miles. They were going to escalate, which meant I needed to be ready. I didn't have to wait long. 2 nights later, Jordan paid me a visit. I was expecting him. Owen's contacts had warned me that Miles was asking around about problem solvers, and Jordan was the obvious choice. What I wasn't expecting was how amateur the whole operation would be. The knock came at 2 a.m., soft but insistent. I was already awake, already prepared. The motel room had been rigged with some creative security measures. Nothing lethal, but definitely memorable. Lucas Moreau? Jordan's voice through the door. Depends who's asking. I think we should talk. I opened the door, and Jordan pushed inside like he owned the place. He was bigger than me, younger, probably figured this would be easy intimidation. He was wrong. Nice place, he said, looking around the shabby room. Real step down from that house, huh? I like it. Quiet neighbors, no drama. What can I do for you, Jordan? You can stop messing with my boss. I'm not messing with anyone. I'm just a guy going through a divorce. Jordan smiled, the kind of smile that was supposed to be threatening. See, that's where you're wrong. You're a guy who's about to have some serious accidents if he doesn't back off. Accidents? Car trouble? Work injuries? Maybe a fire that doesn't stop at one room? He stepped closer, trying to use his size advantage. You understand what I'm saying? I understand you're threatening me in my own room. That seems unwise. Unwise? You think I'm worried about some washed-up carpenter? That's when Jordan made his mistake. He reached for me, probably planning to grab my shirt and slam me against the wall for emphasis. Instead, his hand hit the tripwire I'd strung at chest height. The nail tool was rigged to fire into the wall, not at him. I'm not a butcher. But the sound of compressed air and the sight of a 3-inch nail slamming into the drywall 6 inches from his head had the desired effect. Jordan jumped back, tripped over the second wire I'd placed at ankle height, and went down hard. He was scrambling for his feet when the bucket of sawdust I'd rigged above the door came down, covering him in fine wood particles that would take hours to clean out of his hair and clothes. Jesus Christ, what the heck? Home security, I said calmly. Amazing what you can do with basic construction supplies. Jordan was backing toward the door, trying to maintain some dignity while covered in sawdust and clearly rattled. This isn't over. You know, that's the second time this week someone said that to me. You and Miles should compare notes, maybe come up with some new material. After he left, I called Miles directly. Next time you want to threaten me, do it yourself. And Jordan, tell him if he comes back, the nail tool won't be aimed at the wall. You're making a big mistake, Lucas. The only mistake I made was waiting this long to fight back. But don't worry, Miles. We're just getting started. The escalation I'd been expecting came 3 days later, but not in the way I'd anticipated. Instead of more threats, Elena and Miles tried to get creative. They filed a restraining order claiming I'd been stalking Elena and making threats. The hearing was a joke. Elena played the terrified wife, Miles played the concerned friend, and I played the confused husband who just wanted his life back. The judge saw through it immediately. No evidence of stalking, no recorded threats, just the word of a woman who wanted her husband gone, and a man who clearly had his own agenda. The restraining order was denied, but the attempt told me everything I needed to know. Elena and Miles were getting desperate, making mistakes, letting their panic drive their decisions. Time to give them something real to panic about. Owen's research had uncovered Miles's biggest weakness, his reputation with the company's board of directors. He'd built his career on being the clean, reliable choice, the executive who delivered results without scandal. But his gambling debts, his affair with a subordinate, and his creative accounting practices painted a very different picture. I didn't need to expose everything at once. Sometimes the most effective attacks are the ones that let the target destroy themselves. I started with anonymous tips to the company's ethics hotline. Nothing I couldn't prove, nothing that would get me in legal trouble, just enough information to start an investigation. Miles's expense accounts, his relationship with Elena, his association with Jordan, all of it went into a carefully crafted report that raised questions without making accusations. Then I waited. The call came from Elena 2 days later. She was crying again, but these were different tears. Rage tears, the kind that come when someone's perfect plan falls apart. "They're investigating Miles," she sobbed. "Someone reported him to corporate, and now they're going through everything. His accounts, his decisions, even his personal relationships." "That's terrible," I said, not bothering to hide my satisfaction. "I hope it works out for him." "It was you, wasn't it?" "Elena, I'm just a worthless carpenter, remember? What would I know about corporate investigations? This is destroying everything, my career, my future." "Your future was built on lies and betrayal. Maybe it's time to build something real instead." She hung up on me, but I knew she'd call back. Elena was watching her carefully constructed world crumble, and she was starting to realize that the man she'd dismissed as harmless was systematically dismantling everything she cared about. But I wasn't done yet, not even close. She said she needed me. I told her need was a dangerous thing. The investigation into Miles was moving faster than I'd expected. Corporate scandals have a way of growing once someone starts pulling threads, and Miles had left a lot of loose threads over the years. By the end of the week, he was suspended pending a full audit, and the gossip mill was working overtime. Grace filled me in on the details during my nightly visit to the Rusty Buckle. "Word is they found discrepancies going back 3 years," she said, polishing a glass with practiced efficiency. "Missing client funds, inflated expense reports, the whole 9 yards. Your wife's boyfriend picked the wrong time to get greedy." "Elena's not my wife anymore," I corrected. "Just someone I used to know." "Fair enough, but she's been in here every night this week, drinking like the world's ending. Monica, too. Whole crew's falling apart." That was interesting. Elena had never been much of a drinker, too concerned about maintaining control, keeping up appearances. If she was drowning her sorrows at the Rusty Buckle, things were worse than I'd thought. What are they saying? Mostly crying about how unfair everything is, how someone's out to get them. Monica keeps talking about some photos, how they need to contain the situation before it gets worse. Grace leaned closer. "What kind of photos we talking about, Lucas?" I smiled. "The kind that show people's true character." The next morning, I got a call from an unexpected source, Elena's mother, Patricia. We'd never gotten along. She'd always thought her daughter married beneath her station, but desperation makes for strange alliances. "Lucas, we need to talk." "About what, Patricia?" "About Elena. About this mess she's gotten herself into." Her voice was tight, controlled, the way it got when she was trying not to show how upset she was. "Can you meet me for lunch?" We met at an upscale restaurant downtown, the kind of place Patricia felt comfortable and I felt like an intruder. She was already seated when I arrived, looking every inch the society matron in her designer suit and pearls. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat down. "I'm curious what this is about." Patricia studied me for a long moment as if seeing me clearly for the first time. "I know what Elena did, the affair, the planning, all of it." That surprised me. "She told you?" "She didn't have to. I've been watching her destroy her marriage for months, making excuses for behavior that had no excuse." Patricia's composure cracked slightly. "I raised her better than this, Lucas. I don't know what happened to the daughter I thought I knew. She became someone who values success over everything else, including the people who love her." "Yes, and now that success is crumbling, and she's panicking." Patricia leaned forward. "She's talking about desperate measures, things that could destroy more than just her career." "What kind of things?" "She wants to claim you mistreated her, physically, Emotionally, financially. She thinks if she can make you the villain, she can save her reputation and her relationship with Miles. I'd expected this. It was part of their original plan, after all. But hearing it confirmed still sent a chill through me. Why are you telling me this? Because despite what you might think, I don't hate you, Lucas. You were good to Elena, even when she didn't deserve it. And because... She paused, choosing her words carefully. Because I know what really happened to her office. My blood went cold. What do you mean? I was there that morning. I came by to drop off some papers Elena had forgotten, and I saw you leaving through the back door. I saw the way you looked at the house, like you were saying goodbye to something. Patricia's eyes were sad but not accusatory. I also saw the way Elena had been treating you, the things she said about you to her friends. If someone had treated my husband that way... She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't need to. What do you want from me? I asked. I want you to end this before it goes too far. Elena's my daughter, and despite everything, I love her. But she's about to destroy herself completely, and I don't think either of you wants that. I'm not the one who started this war, Patricia. No, but you might be the only one who can end it. She reached across the table and touched my hand. Please, Lucas. For the girl she used to be, if not for the woman she's become. I thought about it during the drive back to my motel. Patricia was right. Elena was spiraling, making increasingly desperate choices that would ultimately hurt her more than me. The smart thing would be to step back, let her destroy herself, and walk away clean. But I wasn't feeling smart. I was feeling angry, betrayed, and tired of being the reasonable one in an unreasonable situation. That evening, I got the call I'd been expecting. Lucas. Elena's voice was slurred, probably from whatever she'd been drinking. I need to see you. Why? Because I have something to show you, something that changes everything. She wanted to meet at the construction site where I was working, a new office building going up on the east side of town. After hours, no witnesses, just Elena and whatever desperate plan she'd cooked up. I almost didn't go. Every instinct told me it was a trap, that Elena was past the point of rational conversation. But curiosity won out, along with a desire to see how far she was willing to go. The construction site was dark, except for security lights, casting long shadows between the skeletal framework of the unfinished building. Elena was waiting by the main entrance, and she wasn't alone. Miles was with her, looking like a man who'd lost everything and was ready to burn down the world in response. Hello, Lucas, Elena said as I approached. She was steadier than she'd sounded on the phone, but her eyes had a wild quality that put me on edge. Elena? Miles? I nodded to each of them. What's this about? It's about ending this, Miles said. You've had your fun, played your little games, but it's over now. I wasn't aware we were playing games. Elena pulled out her phone and showed me the screen. It was a recording app, and it was running. I want you to admit what you did, she said. The fire, the car, the investigation. I want you to say it out loud, and then we can all move on. I almost laughed. You want a confession? For what? For destroying my life. Elena's composure finally cracked completely. For burning down everything I worked for ruining Miles's career, for turning everyone against me. I didn't turn anyone against you, Elena. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences of your own choices. Bees, you planned this whole thing, didn't you? The moment you found out about Miles and me, you started plotting your revenge. You're right, I said, and I saw both of them tense with anticipation. I did plan this. From the moment I found your burner phone and realized what you were really planning, I knew I had to fight back. Elena smiled triumphantly, thinking she'd gotten what she wanted. But I wasn't done. But here's the thing, Elena. I didn't make you have an affair. I didn't make you plan to destroy me in the divorce. I didn't make you treat me like garbage for years while I supported your career and your dreams. All I did was hold up a mirror and let everyone see who you really are. You destroyed my office! I created a small electrical problem that resulted in property damage. You destroyed our marriage, our trust, and 17 years of shared history. Which one of us is the real arsonist here? Miles stepped forward, trying to look threatening, despite his obvious desperation. Enough talking. You're going to back off, stop interfering in our lives, or what? You'll send Jordan to threaten me again? You'll file another bogus restraining order? You'll try to frame me for domestic misuse? I shook my head. Miles, you're finished. The investigation is going to find everything. The gambling debts, The embezzlement, the affairs. Your career is over, your reputation is destroyed, and everyone knows it. We can rebuild, Elena said, but her voice lacked conviction. Miles and I, we can start over somewhere else. With what money? Miles is about to be sued by his own company, and you're about to be blacklisted from every marketing firm in the state. Face it, Elena. Your perfect plan failed because it was built on a foundation of lies and betrayal. The silence stretched between us, broken only by the distant sound of traffic and the wind whistling through the unfinished building. Elena and Miles looked at each other, and I could see the moment they realized their partnership was as doomed as everything else they'd built together. This isn't over, Miles said, falling back on his favorite thread. You know what? You're right, it's not over. I pulled out my own phone and showed them the screen. It had been recording the entire conversation. Because now I have you both on tape admitting to conspiracy, fraud, and attempted extortion. Funny how that works, isn't it? Elena went pale. You can't. I can, and I will. Unless, of course, you both disappear from my life permanently. No more threats, no more schemes, no more attempts to destroy me. You slink away quietly, and maybe I don't turn this recording over to the police. Miles grabbed Elena's arm. We're leaving. This is insane. As they walked away, Elena turned back one more time. I loved you once, she said. No, you didn't. You loved the idea of me, the stable husband who'd support your ambitions without asking for anything in return. But you never loved me, Elena. If you had, none of this would have happened. They drove away in separate cars, and I was left alone in the darkness of the construction site, surrounded by the framework of something new being built from the ground up. It seemed appropriate, but I knew this wasn't really the end. Elena and Miles were desperate, cornered, and desperate people do desperate things. The real confrontation was still coming, and when it did, I wanted to be ready. He begged for mercy. I gave him a microphone. The call came at midnight, 3 days after the confrontation at the construction site. Not from Elena or Miles, but from Owen. Lucas, wake up. We have a problem. I was already awake, staring at the motel ceiling and thinking about Patricia's warning. What kind of problem? The kind where your wife and her boyfriend have decided to go nuclear. They're at the lakeside cabin, the one Miles rented for his private meetings. And they're not alone. Who's with them? Monica, Jordan, and a couple other people I don't recognize. But Lucas, they've got gasoline, rope, and what looks like a plan to make you disappear permanently. My blood went cold. How do you know this? Because they've been drinking and talking loud, and the cabin next door has very thin walls. My contact says they're planning to lure you out there tonight, make it look like you attacked them, and then, well, let's just say they're not planning on you walking away. I was already getting dressed. Where exactly is this cabin? Miller's Lake, North Shore. But, Lucas, you can't go out there alone. These people are past rational thought. I'm not going alone. Call Grace. Tell her to contact Sheriff Morrison. Tell him there's about to be trouble at Miller's Lake, and he might want to have some deputies in the area. What are you planning? I'm planning to end this once and for all. The drive to Miller's Lake took 20 minutes through winding back roads that I knew from childhood fishing trips. The lake was isolated, surrounded by dense woods and accessible only by a single dirt road. Perfect for privacy, terrible for escape routes. I parked a quarter-mile from the cabin and approached on foot, using skills I'd learned during my brief stint in the National Guard 20 years earlier. The cabin was lit up like a beacon, voices carrying clearly across the still water. Through the windows, I could see Elena, Miles, Monica, Jordan, and 2 other men I didn't recognize. They were drinking heavily, working themselves up for whatever they had planned. Gasoline cans were stacked near the fireplace, and I could see rope, duct tape, and other supplies that made my stomach turn. I circled the cabin looking for the best approach when I heard Elena's voice rise above the others. He destroyed everything, my career, my reputation, my future, all gone because of him. We should have handled this weeks ago, Miles replied. But no, you wanted to be clever, play games. Now look where we are. It's not too late, Monica said. We stick to the plan. Lucas comes out here, we defend ourselves, and he has an unfortunate accident. Self-defense. What if he doesn't come? One of the strangers asked. He'll come, Elena said with certainty. He's too arrogant now, too confident. He thinks he's won, but he has no idea what's waiting for him. That's when I realized they hadn't called me yet. They were still working up the courage, still planning the details, which meant I had time to turn the tables. I pulled out my phone and called Elena. "Lucas!" She sounded surprised, probably because she'd been planning to make the call herself. "Hello, Elena. I heard you wanted to see me." Silence on the other end, then whispered conversation I couldn't make out. "Where are you?" she asked finally. "Close. I think it's time we settled this face to face, don't you?" Yes, I think it is. Miller's Lake, the cabin on the North Shore. Do you know it?" "I'll find it. Just you and me, Elena. No Miles, no lawyers, no games. Just us." "Just us," she agreed. I hung up and immediately called Owen. "Are the deputies in position?" "Sheriff Morrison has 2 cars about 5 minutes out, waiting for your signal." "Good. When I give the word, have them come in fast and loud. And Owen, make sure they bring recording equipment. This is going to be a confession you won't want to miss." I approached the cabin from the back, staying in the shadows until I was close enough to hear their frantic preparations. Elena was giving orders like a general preparing for battle, assigning positions and responsibilities. The plan was simple. I'd enter through the front door, they'd surround me, and then claim I'd attacked them first. What they didn't know was that I'd spent the last hour rigging their escape routes. The boats at the dock had their fuel lines cut, the cars had their tires deflated, and the single road out was about to be blocked by police vehicles. I walked up to the front door and knocked. "Elena, I'm here." The door opened, and Elena stood there with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Lucas, thank you for coming. Wouldn't miss it." I stepped inside and immediately saw the trap. Miles and Jordan flanked the fireplace, Monica covered the kitchen entrance, and the 2 strangers blocked the back door. All of them were trying to look casual, but the tension was thick enough to cut. "Drink?" Elena offered, gesturing to a bottle of whiskey on the coffee table. "I'm good. Let's just talk." "About what?" "About ending this. All of it. The revenge, the plotting, the destruction. It's gone too far, Elena." She laughed, a sound with no humor in it. "Too far? You destroyed my life, and you think it's gone too far?" I held up a mirror. "You destroyed your own life." "Bees!" The mask dropped completely. "You planned this from the beginning. You found out about Miles and me, and you decided to make us pay." "You're right," I said, and everyone in the room tensed. "I did plan it. From the moment I realized what you were really planning to do to me, I knew I had to fight back." Elena pulled out her phone again, starting another recording. "Say it again. Admit what you did." "I admit that I fought back against people who were trying to destroy me. I admit that I used your own tools against you. Lies, manipulation, betrayal. I admit that I showed everyone exactly who you really are." "You burned down my office." "I created a situation that revealed your true priorities. When your precious awards were threatened, you cared more about them than about our marriage." "You ruined Miles's career?" "I exposed his criminal behavior. The gambling, the embezzlement, the fraud, all true, all documented, all his choice." Miles stepped forward, his face flushed with alcohol and rage. "Enough! You want to know what really happened here? Your husband is a dangerous man, Elena. He lured us here, threatened us, attacked us." "In self-defense, of course," I interrupted. "After you tried to end me." The room went dead silent. Elena's phone was still recording, capturing every word. "What?" she whispered. "The gasoline, the rope, the isolated location. Did you really think I wouldn't figure out what you were planning? You were going to homicide me and claim self-defense, make me disappear and split my assets." "That's insane," Monica said, but her voice shook. "Is it? Let's see what the police think when they get here." "What police?" Miles demanded. As if on cue, sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer fast. Elena's face went white. "You called the police?" "I called them before I came here. Told them I was worried about my safety, that my estranged wife and her friends had lured me to an isolated location. Funny thing about police, they take threats seriously when there's a pattern of escalating behavior." The sirens were getting louder. Jordan moved toward the back door, but I shook my head. "I wouldn't. The boats are disabled, the cars are useless, and the road's about to be blocked. You're not going anywhere." Elena was staring at her phone, at the recording that had captured everything. Their admissions, their plans, their guilt. We weren't really going to. "End me? Maybe not. But you were planning something violent enough to require gasoline and rope. I'm sure the jury will be very interested in your explanation." The police cars pulled up outside, red and blue lights flashing through the windows. Sheriff Morrison's voice came through a megaphone. "This is the sheriff's department. Everyone exit the building slowly with your hands visible." Elena looked around the room at her co-conspirators, at the evidence of their planned crime, at the ruins of everything she'd built. Then she looked at me. "I loved you," she said one last time. "No, Elena, you loved what I could do for you. There's a difference." The police entered with professional efficiency, separating us, taking statements, collecting evidence. The gasoline cans, the rope, the recorded confessions, all of it painted a clear picture of conspiracy and attempted assault. As they led Elena away in handcuffs, she turned back one final time. "This was supposed to be different," she said. "We were supposed to be happy." "We were happy, Elena. You just decided it wasn't enough." Miles was ranting about lawyers and false accusations, but his voice was hollow. He knew, just as Elena knew, that their lives as they'd known them were over. The recordings, the evidence, the witnesses, it was all there, undeniable and damning. Monica was crying, claiming she'd just been following Elena's lead, that she'd never meant for things to go so far. The strangers, hired muscle from Miles's gambling connections, were already trying to cut deals with the prosecutor. As the last police car pulled away, I stood alone by the lake, watching the sun rise over the water. Owen appeared beside me, looking tired but satisfied. "It's over," he said. "Yeah, it's over. Any regrets?" I thought about it, about the woman Elena had been when we'd first met, about the dreams we'd shared and the life we'd planned, about 17 years of marriage that had ended in mutual destruction. I regret that it came to this. I regret that she made choices that turned love into hate, trust into betrayal. But do I regret fighting back? No, I don't. Owen nodded. What now? Now I rebuild. New house, new life, new everything. And this time I'll know the warning signs. As we walked back to our cars, I thought about Elena's final words. She'd said this was supposed to be different, that they were supposed to be happy. But happiness built on lies and betrayal isn't happiness at all. It's just an elaborate form of self-deception. Elena had tried to burn me out, to destroy everything I was and everything I'd built. Instead, she'd burned herself down, consumed by her own greed and ambition and cruelty. The last toast in Ashwood had been raised, and Elena had drunk deeply from the cup of her own making. Now she could live with the taste. She tried to burn me out. I let her burn herself down instead.